Come on, man. It's a state of stupidity.
It's a state of stupidity.
State of stupidity.
That's just a state of stupidity.
State of stupidity.
I believe it's a state of stupidity.
They want you to believe it's a state of stupidity.
I told him. I said it's a state of stupidity.
Welcome back to the State of Stupidity. This is episode 7, and we're slowing down for a bit here. This episode, we're not going to be covering too many news topics or current events because I would like to talk about something that relates to what a lot of the news stories and things of that nature that are thrown in our faces is here to deal with, and that is to cause trauma. The world as we know it is a very trauma-based environment, as it seems. And those in power, those in control, have learned over the course of generations how to utilize trauma to the best of their ability to exert their control and power over the rest of us. Now, when you say PTSD, most people think of vets. They think of war. But the problem with PTSD is that it is a much more complex issue than just those vets that are dealing. Now, they are very much also dealing with those things, but the way they are handled and the way things are treated for them has only just started to get a little better, to where the things that are inflicted on them in basic training to turn them into soldiers is what is causing a lot of the residual PTSD. It's not combat tour. It's not always the intense, what we're shown in movies that leads to trauma, but just emotional trauma. There is all kinds, and throughout this episode, I'd like to just discuss and touch on things. I did find a lady by the name of Cathy O'Brien who she wrote a book called PTSD Time to Heal, and it's a workbook where it helps. She talks about her own issues, and hers are very, we'll discuss that at a different time. It's connected to the CIA and MK Ultra and all that stuff. But she wrote a book, and I just want to read the first bit about disassociation. Because I know from experience that trauma results in disassociation, which is professionally defined as the mind's sane defense to trauma too horrible to comprehend. The neuron pathways of the brain actually shut down to repress or isolate the trauma so the rest of the mind can function normally. Now, with the way things are thrown at us in a constant berate of what seems like trying to shorten our attention span, it is more where it's easier for us to disassociate with the way that the world is, because we have been programmed to not fully understand what we're being bombarded with. It's been by design for quite some time. The OSS originally was looking into these types of things post-World War II. They even brought on the best minds of Nazi scientists to help, who the Nazis were also conducting their own experiments, because it turns out that trauma-based mind control is one of the easiest ways to make the mind malleable, to influence the way things go. And on a global scale, it would appear that they've been doing this to everyone within isolated pockets of countries. Each country has their own form of this that can be traced back by the Hydra. I'm sorry. I have trauma brain. I have where I'll start thoughts, and because of things that I've dealt with, I have a history of some trauma that comes from my own childhood through the way things happened when I was being raised. And then in about 2017, I had a serious traumatic event happen that kind of shoved me off the main timeline of things. And I've been gradually coming to terms with what I dealt with, and I'm still in my own healing process. And so I know I can come across a bit scatterbrained, but I mean, Jay, you can attest that when I'm firing on all cylinders and I'm communicating, you're one person who's been able to see through that trauma brain, to see who's really there behind that brain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I noticed this week you must have been stressed, just even thinking about doing this podcast, because I could see it in your face and in your actions. I could tell that you were obviously, this hits deep with you.
Well, yeah.
And, a lot of this, they started talking about PTSD, I guess, after Vietnam. They started noticing, they did more testing into this. And that's where PTSD came from.
Yeah.
After they looked at these soldiers and what they went through and what they seen.
Well,
and that's where that's where originally, I guess, they came up with
the term
now is PTSD.
Yeah. Which that plays into the side of it. There's actually a bit here where the reality of disassociation and the brain's reaction to it are for those in positions of power, of control, who capitalize on a lack of awareness about it. So when 9/11 occurred, the U.S. as a whole nation was traumatized and thus easily, deliberately led into war. And then 9/11 was a powerful example of the mind control sliding scale. She goes on to say, which extends from social engineering of a whole population to the kind of robotic mind control that she had endured. A bombardment of military ads on television in conjunction with constant images of 9/11's terror and declarations of war by U.S. leaders resulted in unprecedented military recruitment. And then this basic training in the military includes physical exhaustion, and it's often compounded by a lack of sleep and food and water deprivation. And then they use what they call neuro-linguistic programming to then get what they want them to focus on, so that way they can get point and shoot without hesitation once they actually are on the battlefield.
They said 96% of the survivors of 9/11 had at least one symptom of some sort of PTSD.
Yeah.
And, I never really thought about it till you read that there. I mean, look how many times they played over and over and over, the planes crashing into the tower.
Right.
I mean, how many times did they constantly put that on there?
It was, at the time, it was almost monthly where they were running it.
Right, daily. I mean, it was, if you think back, it was constantly. It's all you saw.
Well, and that plays into MK Ultra and the CIA's mind control experiments, where they presented people with images of that kind of stuff in the 50s in isolated places where they were running their mind control experiments to then see what they could do. The MK Ultra program was a series of like over 100 different types of experiments that they produced on unknowing people, like people who had no idea what they were in for, what they were being a part of, or anything like that. And then they took that data and then they started to roll out, you can see where they rolled out these programs and things into the actual world. Because they also had Project Mockingbird, where they infiltrated all of the media outlets and stuff like that. So they found the way that trauma was able to manipulate the masses, and then they implanted people within media corporations to be able to fearmonger. And then that's where you see things like in the 80s, there was the satanic panic. Like in the 90s, you had where everybody was coming for your kids. It was always, they would literally run at 10 o'clock at night. Do you know where your kids are?
Well, yeah. And the funny part about that is, they don't run that at all now, but more kids are disappearing than back then.
Right.
But you don't hear that at all because, are they part of these 2 million plus kids that go missing every year.
And that's just it. I mean, it's so we don't talk about certain things that way we don't have to, if we don't discuss it, they get to keep doing.
Oh, yeah.
Things.
If we don't discuss it, it's not happening.
Right. And the thing is that with, we need to be brought back to the moment, to the present when dealing with trauma, because it's easy to get stuck in the past, in those memories, and there's all kinds of triggers, all kinds of things that can cause us to get stuck. Like you said about how you saw me this week and you could tell that I just wasn't quite right because
you get in your own way.
Yeah, exactly. And it was one of those things where I was, not only was it that I was reliving my own, but then in looking into the heinous shit that they were doing, it was also where the CIA spook aspect of it started to creep into my mind, where everything is out to get me. Everything is
they get you. You see, you let them win at their own war. That's the problem.
But see, the thing is that
you know what's going on, so you got to be ahead of it,
and that's where I got to try and stay.
Exactly.
But in my own head, I can get lost because there's very few people around me that talk to me.
Yeah.
But there are an enormous amount of people around me that talk about me. And I don't care.
But is that you getting in your own head that they're talking about you, or you?
I can tell by actions. I can tell by body language. I can tell by the way somebody comes and the way they approach me. I can tell that they've had a conversation about me with somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not something that
you're not thinking too much into it.
No. It's an acknowledgement of when I'm dealing with someone, of understanding why I'm getting a certain reaction from them that I shouldn't be at that time. You know what I mean? Because of my childhood trauma, I became heightenedly aware of my surroundings. I had to be aware of what the adults around me were doing at all times because of certain situations that I was subjected to that put me in that state of mind.
See what I mean? What you have to do is not worry about all that bullshit.
Whoa.
Because, I mean, I have people talk about me all the time.
Oh, yeah. No, and let me clarify there. I can understand that. I can vocalize that, but it's not like I sit around worrying about what every Tom, Dick, and Harry says about me or thinks about me. I honestly don't give two shits one way or the other because I know who I am in my, you know what I mean? Yeah. In my world, in my reality.
You got to just not even worry about that. No, it's all just noise.
Right.
Because, I mean, if, all the people that talk about me, if I let that bother me or I let that even get into my head, Stephen, even though, I every now and then I'll be like, get pissed off, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I even doing here?
Exactly.
You got to take a second, clear your mind and say, to hell with it. I'm not really worried about just noise that's affecting my ultimate goal.
Right.
And if you allow that into there, it just takes you longer to get to your ultimate goal.
And that's just it. And the thing with healing is when you're ready to heal, like you can't really be around people who trigger past memories. So for me, my support group, not only were they not quite the best for me at the time, just because of the way they were handling things around me, but then in the way that I needed a support group when I went through what I went through, I was still stuck being in an echo chamber where I had bad actors that not to their own fault necessarily. It wasn't like they were doing anything malicious, but they were not good for my own mental health.
Well, the problem is, back when our parents grew up, everybody was out to help everybody.
Right.
Now everybody only wants to talk to you if they're either gaining something from it, or they want to create more drama or spread more drama.
Right.
They don't want to actually truly listen to you and help you cope with anything.
Right. They just
And
need
that's not
something to
everybody,
go
but
back.
that's 95% of people.
Exactly.
And that's what the unfortunate part is.
Well, and that's because we've gotten to a place where in communication, we've gone away from talking about ideas and we talk more about people. And there's a great saying out there.
The other problem is we don't even talk.
Well, that's just
we
it.
text and we keyboard warrior everything on some social media site.
And you're not actually interacting with a person then when you're reading that.
Exactly.
You're then manifesting in your own head a person who interprets that, who is a copy of what you're reading.
Yeah, and you know, you could text somebody something, but you can't text somebody something with voice affliction.
Right.
So a text, when you read, depending on who's reading it and what mindset, what's mindset they're in, whether it's positive or negative, totally changes that text message.
Exactly.
And whatever interaction you're having with the person at the time, if you're having an argument with them, obviously everything that you're reading is going to go to the negative.
Exactly.
And that argument could take all day.
Right.
Instead of you just pick the damn phone up and talk to them, that thing could be resolved in under 5 minutes in most cases.
Absolutely.
And
the other week,
everybody can move on with their life.
Yeah.
And you move on with your day, and everybody's much better off. But that's the problem with society now. I mean, I look at even my kids, when they're with their girlfriends or whatever, they'll be sitting on the couch texting back and forth. It's like, what the hell's going on here? You're sitting right next to them and you can't even talk to them.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just that generation.
Well, but it's not just that generation, because the older generations have also adopted that.
Yeah, so I mean,
and then they were the ones who actually, we want to blame the younger generation, but the older generation didn't stand the ground and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go to this. We're going to go back to the way it should be. It was one of those things where everybody just adopted the texting mentality. I remember it was around 2010s when if you texted somebody, you were going to get a phone call of somebody screaming at you. Why the hell can't you just call me?
Exactly.
And now we're in the complete opposite of that, where it's literally if you would try to call somebody.
Yeah.
But now a couple weeks ago, it was my birthday. Now, do you think I got a single phone call on my birthday? I
don't know. Did you?
No.
That's amazing.
Now, I got plenty of texts. I'm not saying that I didn't get any communication of hey, it's your birthday, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But instead of taking time to say, to vocalize it, it was just sent in a very, and that's partly due to Facebook. I mean, they've made it the funny thing is that the only reason anybody on Facebook knew it was my birthday is because Miss Tori made a wonderful post about it. But I personally don't have mine listed in for it to go out there because I don't want fake bullshit like that. Where just because it showed up in, now granted, for people who I don't interact with on a regular basis, that would be one thing. But those people who saw me time and time again when I was more into social media.
Yeah.
If they didn't see it on Facebook, they didn't text me. They didn't, you know what I mean? They didn't reach out. So it is one of those things where, and now for somebody who is dealing with any kind of mental health issue where there is a reliance on the person to be the one to speak up about it, or that person to make the right decisions in what they should do with getting help. Well, that's all well and good in a perfect world to try and deflect any kind of responsibility. But I even went so far as to try and I did try to heal my own issues while still communicating with people from my past who not necessarily were connected to the 2017 issue, but were there for my childhood stuff. Okay. And it failed horribly.
Yeah.
I didn't fully, I was, my mental health was also weaponized against me within my previous employment, where my supervisors were utilizing triggers to be able to mess with me while I was just trying to do my job. Now, as somebody who has seen my work ethic and can attest to my character and whatnot, when it comes to just trying to get the job done, wouldn't you say 90% of the time, that's all I'm trying to do? At least that's just
too much at sometimes. That's why shit gets wrecked. I mean, see, my whole thing is like, people need to be tougher mentally.
Yeah.
Is what and you're an attestament to it, the way you were brought up.
Yeah.
That's a big part of how you were brought up, and, I'm a fan of Dan Pena. I watch his motivational speakings or get your ass kicking, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But, he has a lot of good sayings, like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Okay.
A lot of your future is who you hang around with.
Right.
If you're going to hang around with people that are doing drugs, and I'm saying you're doing that, but people that are doing drugs and drinking beer and at the bars Friday night burning their paycheck up, you're going to be, what you're going to end up being. You're going to be the same thing because that's who you're hanging around with. That's who's influencing you.
Yeah.
Another big saying he has is, fears, false expectations appearing real.
Yep.
Because people get in their own head. Yeah. And they're, what are they fearful of? Well, they're creating all the fear in their head. Yeah. Because they're looking at everything in a negative light. And that's a lot on how you're brought up. I mean, I wouldn't say I was brought up the best, but I did have two parents in my life, Right. They didn't always get along, but they did their, best to grow me up with, a positive attitude and respect people. Yeah. So, for that, I could thank them. And my dad, he probably didn't kick my ass enough. If he knew half the shit I did, he would have kicked my ass a lot more than he already did. But at least he was there to kick my ass. I mean, right. Nowadays you can't do anything to your kids because, if you even raise a hand to them, you're abusing them.
Well, in my experience with raising my daughter, I have found that in communicating to her like she's a human being and not an inconvenience or that's the problem. Most parents they want someone else to raise their kid, or they want they want the kid to just take care of themselves.
They want iPhone,
too soon,
Android, or iPad, or whatever the Androids. I don't know what they call their iPad equivalent. Yeah, they hand them off. I mean, you look at kids that are 2-3 years old; they're on them things. Yeah. I mean, it's great if they're learning stuff, but I mean, they're learning how to use technology, but they're not, like you said, it's more of an inconvenience. So here, take this and shut up when you're you're going out for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Right. What do you see the kids doing? Yeah. They're not talking to anybody there. They're all playing on these phones.
Well, and that was something that, my daughter, she did have some issues with acting out when she was a toddler. And it was a point of, well, if we're not sure how she's going to be when we go out, we're not going to take her out. We're not going to go. We're just going to eat at home. We'll just, you know what I mean? Yeah. So we made a conscious decision to not make it. See, too many parents, once you have a kid, it's not about you anymore. It's about the kid. You made the active choice to create life, and you need to do everything in your power to try and fertilize that life, to grow that life, to help that life grow into a functioning member of their own life, not a society. I won't say that because, I mean, that's just playing into the machine of it all.
Yeah, I mean, see, I think you need to take them out in society, and if they, just teach them how they got to listen when they're in public. And I see a lot of parents, like I said, they hand them the iPhone or hand them whatever, and rather than reprimanding them, it's like, here, instead of telling them, the whole reason they're probably complaining and crying is because they want something and it's too hard to say no. Yeah, you got to tell your kids no. That's part of growing up. You can't expect your kids can't come to you and every time they want something, you tell them yes.
Well, then that just leads to them later in life walking around. Yeah,
exactly what we have right now. Yeah, well, I want everything, but I don't want to do anything for it. And if I don't get it, then I'll start crying and screaming and kicking until I get my way. So, the another saying is a squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Exactly.
So these young kids want to cry and whine and rather than go out and earn it. Yeah. But that all starts from, like I said, I mean, a lot of parents fail their kids. Yeah. It's unfortunate to say that, but a huge amount of them are failing their kids. That's why kids are the way they are.
Well, and now to take it back, though, I think a lot of that has been by design.
Absolutely.
Through the trauma where the parents don't even fully know that they were traumatized. Or because most people, until I had an actual professional, a mental health professional tell me that what I had experienced and what I was experiencing was PTSD. I had no idea. And that was all but 2 years after. So in 2019, I finally was told, hey, this looks like what you're dealing with here. And then everything started to make sense. And then I started to do my own research into it and started to go on my own path of healing because, I mean, well, I couldn't afford actual, mental health care.
Well, to be honest with you, you're probably better off.
Well, I totally,
because if you would have got mental health, health care, that would have meant you would have been on 3 or 4 prescriptions.
Right. Well,
and you would have been brain dead.
They did originally when it was the loss of a child. That was the traumatic event. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. But when I was going through all of it, like in the moment of all of it, one of the things when I was going through grief counseling and whatnot, I was prescribed anti-anxieties and anti-depression medicine. Now, I never took a single pill.
Yeah.
Never wanted to go that route because I had heard all the horror stories.
Yeah.
I had seen family members who were never the same.
Listen, that's the big pharmaceutical, that
right.
They sued them over OxyContin.
Yeah.
Well, they should be sued over all these antidepressants because they
benzos.
They get people on them. You're never coming off that things. You're hooked for life.
Well,
and the minute you the minute you stop taking your medicine and you just spaz out because listen, everybody reaches their point sometime where they're going to spaz out.
Right.
Oh, you spazzed out because you didn't take your medicine.
Yeah.
No, I spazzed out because I had a bunch of assholes.
Yes.
Giving me a hard time and I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I spazzed out. If I would have had my medicine, that means that those people could just be an asshole to me.
Right.
And I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be able to think on my own to say, hey, these guys are just being dicks to me. And I got to act out here to make sure this shit stops. And it just keeps going on and on and on. And it is because they got you so doped up, you can't even think for yourself.
Right. And now minus the being doped up, that was kind of the MO of what I was dealing with post 2017.
Yeah.
Was just anybody who could, once people found how to use my mental health against me, it was
absolutely
used against me. And then now me being a redheaded, an Irish Italian, right away it's, oh, he's got a temper. Oh, he's got anger issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't have those issues. I don't have any problem. I'm known as the guy with the smile. I'm known as the, you know what I mean? Everybody knows me to be in a much more happy, upbeat disposition. I love my life. There's things that I've not liked that have happened in it.
Yeah.
But generally, I love to live, and I love to live to be here for my daughter.
Those things that happen, I mean, that's just part of adversity. And, everybody's going to have something that goes on in their life. And that's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
You could have went and said, boo-hoo me, and ended up on the streets on all sorts of medicines.
Right.
But you chose to, pick yourself up, dust yourself off.
Yeah.
And let's get this, let's figure this out and and just move forward. Yeah. You have to move forward at the end of the day.
And I had people telling me in 2017 that I should file for bankruptcy and get rid of my house and walk away.
Absolutely.
A place that I only lived for 2 years. And here it is, 2023. I'm getting back there. I'm getting back on track financially, but it was because I had such a hole to come out of even at that time. So now where I'm at is a much better place, that because I decided to plant my roots, because I decided to stand and say, no, I'm not going to do what everybody else says I should do. I'm going to do what my intuition's telling me to do. I'm going to do what, based off of the things that I have experienced and the things that I see around me, I feel I should be doing.
I mean, I think society, personally, makes it too easy to give up. And you could have easily done that. You could have said, the hell with it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to just, bankrupt, like they said. I'm not going to give a shit. I'm going to just let the bank deal with it.
Yeah.
Because that's just the easy thing to do. It's just like, even like marriages. That's why they fail nowadays.
Right.
Because society has set it up to make it real easy for a woman to get out of a marriage, to just give up on a marriage.
Yeah.
Because think about it. A woman gives up on a marriage, and I might get some hate for this, but I really don't give a shit. It's the truth. They can give up. They can just say, you know what, this is tough, rather than dealing with it and trying to make this work.
Yeah.
I'm out. You're out. The husband's out. You're out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm taking you for child support. I'm getting custody of the kids. I'm getting half your pension.
Yeah.
If the courts looked at half these cases, it would probably go 50-50 is what it probably should be.
Well,
And then the woman or the man would have to say, do I really want to go down this path, or should I, stick it out and make this marriage work, and actually follow through with my vows and do what I said I was going to do when I stood up on the altar with my wife, or am I just going to say the hell with it? I'm gonna get half his pension. I'm gonna get half his shit. I'm gonna get the house. I'm gonna get the kids, and the kids are just a paycheck.
Yeah,
and a lot of the times they're just a paycheck. I mean, it's been proven that single family, kids raised by a single dad are much better off in life than kids raised by a single mother. There's all sorts of research on that. Statistics, that show that, because they need a man in life. They need a woman in their life too. I mean, honestly, I said,
all kids need two parents in their life,
actively in their life. Correct. Yeah. But society makes it so easy for the woman to just walk away.
Well, that's been by design through. Well,
that's all.
The whole. It goes back to the dismantling of the family.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about. At the end of the day, it's all about money.
Right.
Because these lawyers are lined up to take these cases.
Yeah.
They love
getting paid ridiculous amounts to do what?
You have
to ruin lives.
You have all the courthouse that have all these domestic relation workers.
Yeah.
That are getting a cut of the child support.
Yeah.
They got to fund themselves.
Yeah.
So they're getting a cut of the child support. So it's all about everything. At the end of the day, is about money.
Right.
Let's just pull that Band-Aid off and tell them they don't give a shit about the kids.
No.
They could care less about the kids.
Absolutely.
You're going to have good people that do work and actually do care about it, but the majority of them do not care about the kids.
Right. They're in it for a paycheck, and they know it's an easy fucking paycheck because they know the system has been put in place to where it's just a never-ending revolving door.
I mean, I watched a documentary the other day on Saving Maya.
Okay. So
down in Florida, this girl Maya had CPRS, I think it was, or CRPS, I forget. It was she had pain, like bad pain throughout her whole body.
Okay.
So the mother, who was a nurse, takes her to the all these doctors, and they can't figure out what's going on with her. And finally, they find this doctor that diagnosed her with this CPRS or CRPS, and the only treatment that truly works for it is high doses of ketamine.
Oh. So
he put her on these low doses of ketamine, and it really wasn't doing much.
Right.
So what they do is they can put you into what's called a ketamine coma, but it's not legal in the States.
Okay.
So this doctor has a practice in Mexico.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if he has a practice. I guess he goes down to the hospital or wherever they do this.
Yeah.
So he tells the family, listen, if you want her to truly get better, you're going to have to give her higher doses of ketamine, and you may have to put her in one of these ketamine comas, but we can't do it here in the States.
Yeah.
So they take her down they end up, they said to her, listen, there's a chance she may not come out of this coma.
Right.
So they figure she's in so much pain that we need to do something.
Yeah.
This has got to stop. So they take her down there, they put her through this ketamine treatment, and she wakes up. She was a little groggy, had some short-term memory loss, but the pain was gone.
Right.
So fast forward a couple years later, the pain starts coming back.
Okay.
I think they might have had her on low dose ketamine, just like as a
to try to
Yeah. So long story short, the mom's at work, and the dad says, "Listen, she's in so much pain, like it makes your legs turn in. I mean, it's pretty. You can't.
Yeah, it's that one that it like physically starts to where your bones and stuff.
Your body just starts shutting down. So the dad takes her to the hospital down in Florida.
Okay.
So the hospital's doing all these tests, and they can't find nothing wrong with her. The dad tells her she has this disease. They never heard of it, don't know how to treat it.
Right.
They then the mom, gets involved in this because she gets back, she rushes over to the hospital, and she tells them this is what you need to do, blah, blah. It's long story short.
Yeah.
They called children and youth on her in Florida.
Okay.
And in Florida, it's privately ran children and youth. It's
okay.
So they do an emergency order. They take the kids away from they don't even let the parents see the kid in the hospital. They're not allowed to see the kid. They're not allowed to talk to the kid.
Yeah.
Then they finally get a court. They go to court. They're allowed to talk to the kid, not see the kid, but they can't talk to this Maya. They can only talk to her on the phone. They can't ask her anything about how her treatment is, what they're treating her for, nothing. So, then I think she's out of the home with these family for 87 days.
Yeah.
And the mom's just destroyed.
Right.
Because she helped this daughter through everything.
Yeah.
The mom ends up hanging herself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because she couldn't take the trauma of
Right.
not being around the kid.
Right.
She that bad that she just, she couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think 2 weeks after the mom hangs herself, the dad gets custody of the kid back miraculously.
So
And they end up suing.
yeah.
So the lawsuit's actually going on right now.
Okay.
And so this hospital that's not treating her for this CPRS or CRPS, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So these attorneys get the hospital records that they're charging the insurance company, and they're charging them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for CRPS treatments the whole time. When they testified in court that the girl never had CRPS, and that's why they took her from the family, because they were abusing her. So there's a huge lawsuit right now.
Wow.
But then this writer writes about this whole story.
Right.
And apparently this same child protective group down in Florida, this same lady did this to numerous families. And what they end up doing is a lot of these families aren't, well off.
Right.
So they talk these families into giving custody of the kid, like on medical decisions, to the state.
Yeah.
But the family still has. They said this is the best way to get the kid back is to admit you did this, and then just you're under this agreement with the state.
Well, that's what they do with like petty crimes and stuff just to get somebody on the books. They say, well, if you just plead guilty, like we know you really didn't do it.
Exactly.
But if you just plead guilty, you won't end up with all the fees. Right.
It'll still be on your record.
But I mean, to do that, and see, the thing is there you go. It's private. So with it being private,
that's why they're doing it.
Exactly. But they were also being properly instructed by the state on how to work the system.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
So they sued the state, they sued the hospital, John Hopkins, and they sued this CPS department. So the CPS department, they were smart. They settled for $2.5 million.
Right.
But they're still taking. So the state, the judge was shady too. So they asked they tell the judge. So when they went to do that, they were supposed to have the hearing. I think it was May in 22 or something.
Yeah.
But this was during COVID, so you couldn't go to court. But the family went to court because they wanted to talk to the judge specifically and tell him, what they're going through. Maya actually wrote a letter of how this has affected her life.
Yeah.
So they go through the court here and they say, listen, we're not going to proceed with court right now. We're going to push it off again.
Really?
And the family's attorney said, well, Maya and her father are there and the son, and they'd have something to say to the judge.
Yeah.
And the judge goes, well, I don't know if that's a good idea. And he asked the state, which is the defense, what do you think of this? Well, we don't think that's a good idea. All right, well, we're just not going to listen to them then. So they pretty much told him to go pound sand.
Wow.
Yeah, so the judge is obviously on, because that's probably the same judge that sided with that. Like, they actually had people they had the doctor that originally diagnosed her with this disease come to court.
Yeah.
And they were trying to get the daughter back to the mother and father. And the judge didn't want to hear anything about this disease.
Well, and that's just it. That's what I mean. You have people who are deciding people's lives that don't give a fuck.
Well, they already made the decision too.
Yeah.
He already made his decision. He wasn't giving the kid back.
Yeah. He was told what
listen,
to do.
We had Cash for Kids in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
And that was just because it was found out.
And where were they pputting them? They were putting them in private prisons.
Exactly.
Because they were making millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
And the only reason that came out is because a couple parents came forward after their kids committed suicide. And they were, like you said, they were getting stupid petty crimes like they were caught with marijuana.
Well, and the kids were literally being fucking pressured into saying they did shit that they didn't, they fucking absolutely didn't fucking do. But that's where they traumatized and manipulated those kids into agreeing to that shit. That's where you have people of authority who abuse their power.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think, the family should go a step further.
Yeah.
And sue the judge.
Yeah.
And let's bring out and see how many cases this guy presided over.
Yeah.
That they didn't listen to any evidence other than the state's evidence.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at some of that? Because I guarantee you, there's probably another cash for kids there.
Yeah. Oh, fuck
in Florida. I mean,
dude, the thing is when you find something like that in one state,
it's everywhere.
There's a
those
different version of it in every fucking state.
They're just like attorneys and doctors. They have their own groups that they all belong to. And they're all in cahoots with all this shit. And then when they figure out, listen, we made millions of dollars off this.
Yeah.
And when you have, private juvenile detention centers and private CPS organizations, you're not going to tell me what they're funded on making profits.
Right.
You're not going to tell me they're not doing shady shit.
No, and
this proves right there it's happening in Florida. And what are we trying to do except cover it up rather than, go in there, investigate it and hold these people accountable?
At the point we're at, if we don't just take care of resetting it away from what they have, if there's no way to redirect, there's no way to take the system that is so corrupt that they already have in place and just reallocate it here, reallocate it there, because there's too much corruption.
Oh,
it's to a point where
it's rampant.
Yeah. We need to all come together and figure out a way to move forward and to heal the world. We need to acknowledge the fact that for at least the better part of a century, our history has been forced upon us by the people who are trying to control us. They created the world wars to hide the fact of what they were doing with the money and shit. And then
to make more money.
Exactly. And they also, because the experiment started like in the 19 teens in the German side of things, and they rolled through up into World War II. And then once World War II happened, it got moved over to the U.S., and then the U.S. was able to create a system that was then able to take that corruption and spread it worldwide under the guise of the OSS and then later the CIA. The guys that I'm looking into, that I'm researching about the shit that they were doing back then, that's still to this day affecting us. That's the thing, is Project Mockingbird didn't get shut down. They took the information, they figured out how to do it better, how to, make it so they weren't so out in the open, you know what I mean? And they did it again and again and again. Instead of controlling one journalist, they just figured out how to control the entire paper. Yeah. Instead of controlling one news channel, they figured out how to set it up to where they control it all.
Oh yeah, what is it, like 3 families own most of the news and newspapers?
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, so, I mean they got it nailed down pretty well.
Yeah, and it's been.
But it comes down to, they made a mistake in Florida.
Well, yeah,
where they made a mistake is they targeted a family that actually, he was an ex fire chief that was retired.
Okay,
and she's a nurse. So you went after they were stupid. They didn't look into who they were targeting. They targeted the wrong people. That's the only reason they got caught.
Right.
I mean, they did this if you look at like all the other complaints they got after this came out, it's all lower income families that don't have the money or power to get their own attorney.
Yeah.
You're working with a public defender.
Yeah. And that's a public defender is lucky if they're bringing home a decent enough salary.
And let's face it, what's a public defender? It's a rookie attorney.
Exactly. Who's juggling multiple cases at one time. And
chances are they came from a low-income family.
Exactly.
They didn't come from a law firm, that's 50 or 100 people deep, that's connected, that they're going to be a rookie there, that they can go, get those cases. They're getting the shit cases.
Yeah. And they're they go from what they learned in law school to trying to apply it into the real world.
Exactly. And then
they don't get the history of, nah, dude, this is how it really works.
Exactly. And then who are they up against? They're up against all these state-funded attorneys that have been through this forever, or they're politically connected.
Who put the laws and
Exactly.
policies and shit
So,
in
I mean,
place
you have
to be able to
an
go.
inexperienced attorney that's
Yeah.
barely getting paid fighting the whole system.
Yeah.
So
And that's
like I
how-
said, that's why they targeted the wrong person. They actually targeted somebody that could hire a real attorney.
Yeah.
And now, hopefully, I mean, they're suing for 145 million. I hope they get $500,000.
Yeah.
I mean, a 50 or 500 million.
Right.
They should sue them for as much as they can get. Make the state and they shouldn't even settle with that company. They should have. What they should have done was said, they need to fire these two people that were directly involved.
Yeah.
And put them right out of business.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
That's what they should have done.
Absolutely.
But hopefully they get hopefully they get what they deserve, because
and
what
hopefully
they did to them was just disgusting. And what they're doing to these other families is it's horrible.
Well, I mean, Florida
Are there
was
bad
where
parents out there? Of course there are.
Yeah.
They're not targeting them.
No. Well, I mean, they are. Like, you have families who are literally selling their children to the traffickers. You have instead of going the abortion route, they go and they find these people who are on the fence about abortion or adoption, and
ask yourself
they
this
swoop
too,
in
though.
and get them.
How many families out there want to actually adopt kids?
Right. A lot.
And how hard is it for these good families to adopt kids?
The good ones?
Yeah, the good ones.
Extremely
It's
hard.
next to impossible.
Right.
So by making it all this nonsense and making it extremely, hard to adopt a kid,
Yeah.
they're fueling all this, underground bullshit.
Well, but the traffickers are doing it through the legal systems. The traffickers are getting it through the adoption
That's why they're
agency.
making it harder for actual people to get it.
Right.
Because
Well, they say that's why, but yet the traffickers keep up. How is it that we're making it harder and harder for legitimate, good people
Well, what we're
to?
doing is we're making it harder for them so we can give the kids to the traffickers on the back end when nobody's watching.
Well, there's a paper trail. They're not even doing it on the back end. They're doing it out in the open. They're doing it on the up and up. I mean, and it's just about looking into who the people who are actually getting. Because I mean, with the HHS, Health and Human Services lady, the whistleblower, when she came out, she said that there were places where there's one adoptee. One person adopting multiple children.
They're putting them in temporary homes.
Yeah,
that are, and then they don't even check in on them.
No, and so it is one of those things where they're making it harder to where they can do stuff like that legally. You know what I'm saying? It's not even about the back end. They're doing it right up front, right out in the open, and then and what all you're doing there is creating a whole generation of trauma. It takes 3 generations. It only takes 3 generations of conditioning for a belief to become autogenically ingrained. And that's where we're at.
Yeah.
We're at least, we're about the 4th or 5th generation beyond when they were fucking around with shit. You know what I mean? From the 80s, because you're talking if they were doing what they were doing we'll just look at post-World War II when it became CIA shit. So our generation is really one of the first generations where it was starting to fade. The trauma that they had induced pre-us was starting to fade, and it's where that they did the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. That was a mass trauma event.
Yeah, and they blame that on gays.
Right, but it turns out, who was it? Who?
Yeah, probably the government.
Who? No, it was fucking Fauci.
Oh, Fauci? Oh, no kidding.
Dude.
I didn't look into that.
Oh, my God. Fauci did the exact same thing he did in 2020 back in the 80s.
But that's another thing. I mean, they bring this AIDS epidemic, like you said, and they turn everybody against gay people because they said that it was, gay men particularly.
Yeah.
So, you turn everybody against them because you say they're passing this bad disease.
Yeah, and then you have to go and you have to create a whole movement. Then once you vilified them, it's not that everybody was out and out bashing gays back in the 80s until the AIDS epidemic.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that there weren't simple-minded people.
Oh,
we have
absolutely.
fucking simple-minded people everywhere all the time. But in creating what they did with the AIDS epidemic, then that led to needing the whole fucking pride movement of the 90s. And then if you just
and the problem is people don't look at that stuff.
No.
Just like slavery. I mean, you want to talk about slavery? there's more slavery right now today than there ever was.
Absolutely.
People they just think slavery is about a white person or a black person.
And that's because of the way that
They don't
the
talk
narrative
about-
has been forced upon
They don't
us.
talk about all the black people that own slaves.
Right. Well, and the fact
They
of
don't
the
talk about
matter
that.
they were the ones who were shipping them off. Like they were
Exactly.
they were
the ones selling
selling
them.
it was human trafficking back in the day
Yeah.
where they were literally being paid to give them
But
away.
nobody wants to talk about that because it doesn't fit the narrative.
It doesn't fit the fucking
You know,
narrative.
so
And if you look at well, you had brought up about how the way Africa still is to this day, where it's still very much isolated pockets
absolutely.
of tribal mentality.
Yep.
But I mean, overall, it seems like a peaceful. I'm sorry, it seems like a peaceful continent that has a lot of people fucking around inside of it. You know what I'm saying?
There's a lot of stuff going on. I mean,
Yeah.
look at you got Russia's. They call it the
Yeah.
Wagner group.
Yeah.
Is in there. They're fighting on with all sorts of different
Right.
facets of that shadow government or like you said, all the tribal people.
Yeah.
And all they give a shit about is the gold there.
Yeah. Because look at who was it? Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Okay. That man was doing a lot of good for his people, pissed off Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
And then
Got stabbed in the streets.
they fucking went ham on him.
Yep.
And but if you look
Well, look at
into
Pu-
it,
look
the
at Putin.
image that we were getting,
Hillary
yeah,
Clinton loved Putin.
yeah,
She got caught on the hot mic.
yeah.
I mean, but now now Putin's this bad guy.
Well, I mean, it's the narrative of it all where
Well, he
they're
didn't-
all playing
Well,
a
the whole
part
thing is,
in the WWE. Of
He didn't
it.
play his part. That's why
Right.
they got upset.
But he was something went fucky there where either he was playing the long con where he was waiting for them.
Exactly.
Like, it almost seems like
something went
he
off
was
the
playing
rails.
the role until he had enough information about what was really going on behind the scenes. And then once he found out, or whoever found out about just how corrupt the cabal is and what they're really doing with the human trafficking and stuff like that, where he then shifted, and then it was around about the time right before Trump,
Yeah.
where it was all kind of building and building and building, and then
They say a lot of that stuff. They say a lot of the stuff he was targeting were research labs too.
yeah. Well,
We
but
don't talk
they're
about that at all.
well, all of the research labs. That's where they conduct the MK Ultra experiments. It's where it's not just about viruses.
Yeah.
It's about so much more than just virus. It's about fucking UAPs. It's about fucking anti-grav technology. It's about 0 point energy. It's about so much more. The world is a lot more exciting than the propaganda we're given. The propaganda
yeah.
we're given is to make it seem like it's a very dull world where all we're doing is being one level above a Neanderthal and pointing guns at each
And
other.
not only that, I mean, think about it. Nobody even knew who the hell Ukraine was a year ago.
Right?
The average American, you ask them where Ukraine, they couldn't tell you where the hell it's at. They could never tell you where it's at.
No.
So we're better to dick around with shit than in a place nobody knows about.
Well, I mean,
You know, Ukraine really only came up when Biden was over there.
Yep.
You know,
when he was getting his
when he was
setting up his money laundering,
when he was extorting them, said it right on TV, and nobody wants to talk about that.
right?
But that, I mean, even then, you couldn't tell any. You could. I guarantee you, 50 to 75% of Americans, you ask them where the hell Ukraine is, they couldn't tell you.
No,
You tell them it's next to Russia. Not one could tell you it's next to Russia.
right,
Not a single one.
right.
But now all of a sudden, we've pumped billions upon billions of dollars in Ukraine. You want to talk about student loan debt? You could have paid off all the student loan debt and put all the people and put the next generation of kids through college with the money we pumped into that place.
Absolutely.
I mean, a place that nobody even knew what the hell it was on the map.
Right. Well, but that's just it. They needed a place like that to be able to do it, because if they tried to do it anywhere else in the world where it was too much of a travel spot, or if it was too much of a this or a that, it would have been
It had
too
to be
well
somewhere
known.
tourism.
It had to be somewhere where they could get in, where it could seem like we were doing it to keep tabs on Russia, as far as the people who knew what the fuck was going on over there. And then it just grew from there.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, these guys act like they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Chinese base there down in Cuba. They're putting in there. Do you see the Chinese spy base they're putting in?
Right.
That I don't know who the hell the guy is for Biden went on the press conference and said that's absolutely not happening. I don't know where that came from. Blah. 2 days later, he's on there. Yeah, they're putting it there.
Yeah.
What, you just found out now?
Right.
I mean,
Like,
I mean, come on,
something that big on something of that scale.
You lied to all American people. Just say, listen, you got caught, asshole.
Right.
Just tell them, yeah, they're putting a base there, and we're concerned about it.
Well, but that's,
I mean, the thing is literally within eyesight of the United States.
Yeah.
And we're going to let them put a spy base there?
Yeah.
They'll get all sorts of information.
Well, I mean, dude, they can get all the information they want from our satellites.
Absolutely.
They're all communicating.
They don't have to get it from the satellites. Just get it from their counterpart.
Exactly. That's just it.
I mean, look, when the Wagner Group was going to take over, started marching on Moscow.
Yeah.
The equivalent of the CIA from Moscow reached out to us to talk about it.
Exactly.
They knew what the hell was going on.
Absolutely.
And they act like they didn't. Then they're like, oh, we don't know what's going on. Bullshit. Then I guarantee you they probably killed that Prosgian or whatever his name is because nobody's seen him since.
Yeah.
He's definitely dead.
Nah, dude, he's just chilling in Belarus.
No, they said he's not there.
No?
No, none of them went there. They probably, listen, they're all in a mass grave under some fucking pipeline somewhere, probably.
Right.
They're all dead, those guys.
because they didn't complete the coup.
Exactly.
That's the thing. They went off book. They stopped doing what they were paid to do.
Those guys, I guarantee it, half of them are probably dead.
Yeah, but I can tell you this much: it's not Putin who's doing it.
No, it's
because they did exactly what they were supposed to do as far as playing out the narrative for him. I mean, there's clearly fuckery going on in the world, and our propaganda machine is in full force trying to squash any kind of counterthink.
I mean, you got to look at it this way too. Like I was thinking about this because I looked into Ukraine.
Okay,
you know how big Ukraine is?
Isn't it only like the size of a certain state? What state?
It's like a size. It's less than the size of Texas.
Okay.
How many fucking bombs do you need to drop on that thing till it's obliterated? I mean,
right.
I mean,
well, but that's just it. Is that we're being lied to about that?
Well,
it's not the whole country that's under war. It's only like a fucking 5-mile sliver.
Yeah, but
that
what
goes
I'm saying
down
is like
the Russian border.
all the
that's
shit they dropped
actually
on that place,
happening.
The thing would be leveled by now.
Right.
I mean, literally, we could level that fucking area probably in an hour.
Yeah. Well,
and Russia's been attacking it for what, 60 days or whatever, however many months we've been into this. Was it 100 days?
Wait, he's not. Well, I mean, it's over a year.
500 days.
Yeah, yeah.
The other day it was 500 days. So they.
Oh yeah, because they had to start.
Yeah,
they had to start the state. What was that? The U.S. State Department or something like that started their briefing by
on the 500.
We're here on the 500th day of the Ukrainian war.
You've been bombing this. You've been bombing something the size of Texas for 500 days. How the hell's anything left?
Right, and that's just it.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
They're not bombing it, and the places that they are bombing, that they're actually bombing themselves. Russia isn't fucking doing half of the shit that we're being told they're doing.
It's hard to believe that they're doing it. I mean, like I said, it's smaller than Texas. I mean, what the hell?
Well, and look, they tried to tell us that they would fucking destroy their own dam.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna fucking shoot. They're Russians. They're not gonna shoot themselves in their own
Zelensky wanted
foot.
there to save everybody. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well, and then he got all butthurt when they wouldn't let him join their party for NATO.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that.
That was the whole build up to that was a little weird. It was like it was happening, and then it was kicked to the next day.
Well,
and then it was kicked to the next day, and then it was
Finland in.
And
they're supposed to bring
Switzerland.
Yeah, but they didn't bring that many yet, I don't think.
Well, I mean, Switzerland is actually like with CERN and the fucked up shit. Switzerland is actually one of the most evil places on the earth. Like, if you look at the history of it, it's one of those things. Do it under the guise of being neutral.
Well, yeah, and Switzerland, I guess Turkey didn't want them in because they have a bunch of terrorist groups in there that Switzerland pretty much just says aren't terrorist groups.
But that's what I'm saying.
Fucking around in Turkey, they mess with Turkey, so that's why Turkey didn't want them in there.
Yeah,
but yeah, like you said, I mean,
when you look at
where does everybody hide their money?
Right,
in Swiss bank accounts.
Yeah.
Why is that? Obviously, because they don't tell anybody anything.
Exactly.
There's a lot of shit going on.
When you tell everybody you're neutral, It's your first fucking lie.
Exactly.
You know full
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
Ain't
You're not
nothing
neu-
as being
yeah.
fucking neutral.
You're not neutral.
You're playing the
wherever
fucking
you get
field.
paid the most. I'm getting paid here the most today. Tomorrow I might get paid here the most, and then you might have to go back here, or maybe I'll go over there tomorrow.
And that's even more evil than true evil. 'Cause
Oh,
true evil
absolutely.
just tells you, hey,
They're-
I'm doing this because I fucking hate people.
Exactly. They're
I'm doing
profiting-
this because I fucking
They're
love
straight
money.
up profiting
They're
off
just
everybody else's evil,
Abso-fucking-lutely.
which makes them worse than everybody else.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Well, and that goes into the whole World Economic Forum. That's where they're located out of. Like it all, every, like, the big NATO, all the shit, they're up in Switzerland fucking plotting out their storylines, telling who, what, where, when, why, what needs to go, what needs to change, what isn't fucking going well. And they change and they use trauma, they use all that shit to influence the masses into letting them do what they want to do. All while, listen, with the amount of money that they're fucking with, could we not pretty much take care of most things?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
All the shit that we're saying we can't pay for,
Right.
and that's billions of dollars. We're wasting it every day.
Yeah.
We're
So,
spending billions of dollars. We're giving billions of dollars. We can't take care of the homeless
right.
because it's too expensive. We can't build more housing for the low-income housing for the homeless because it's too expensive. But we can send weapons of mass destruction, destroy other countries.
And we can foreclose on people who
Exactly. That can't
just
make their
need-
mortgage payment. That need
Right.
a little bit of help.
Yeah.
But we can't. We can give all this money away. I mean,
Yeah.
the American people, that should piss you off enough right there.
Right.
That, and then some of the American people are like, well, screw them. They took the mortgage out. They took the student loan out. Yeah, but you know what? They took that shit out
with the
because
hope
they
and
were
dream
fucking predator-
that they were.
They were predatory lended against. All of them were. No, not all of them, but a big chunk of them were predatory. They knew they couldn't pay this shit back.
Yeah.
They still gave them the money. And then we take all this money that we profit off of these people that we prey on, and we give it to other countries to blow shit up, to rebuild it.
And then
Crazy.
tell the American people that they need to stop spending on this, or
Exactly.
they need to stop
While they're
doing
flying around on
that.
private jets and all this other bullshit.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
So
that was a great article I saw. Fucking they were talking about Leonardo DiCaprio, how he's all about the fucking environment while he flies a fucking helicopter onto his yacht.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's all about the environment. Sure he is.
Yeah.
So that movie I was talking about, it's actually Take Care of Maya. So
Okay.
if you're in Florida, you should take a look at that movie. And if you're experiencing any of that, I think you should reach out to an attorney and you guys down there that are really getting hit by this, or any family should reach out to an attorney and get your kids back to where you can keep them safe, because the government's not going to keep them safe for you. I can tell you that.
Fuck.
You should talk a little bit about Sound of Freedom, because people, you know more about that than I do. You actually seen the movie, right?
Well, yeah. I saw it.
Talk about how that movie, how long ago it was made, and
Okay.
why it wasn't brought to.
Yeah. Well, so The Sound of Freedom, I went and saw it on Monday. Great movie. Now, this movie was made back about 5 years ago. The man behind it, Tim Ballard, has been on a mission since 2013 to supposedly shine a light on child trafficking in the world. And there is...
To do what the government refuses to do, pretty much.
Right. Well, he was Homeland Security, and he was specifically working on child pedophiles,
But he
stuff
couldn't
of that nature.
But he couldn't do nothing because it was out of our jurisdiction because they weren't Americans.
Right.
Or it didn't happen on American soil, right?
Yeah.
But we can blow up Ukraine and everything else.
Yeah.
Blow up Russia and everything else.
And I mean, we can displace millions of children while doing
Yeah,
that.
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally tracks.
But we can't take care of we can't
the
get rid of
actual
these,
bad guys.
Yeah, we can't get rid of these scumbags.
Right. We can only breed more bad guys. We can't take care of the bad guys who currently exist. But anyway, so now there was an issue with the film being released where Disney just so happened to buy Fox, who had originally produced the movie, and then they shelved it. And in shelving it, it sat around, and they were in limbo trying to figure out what they were going to do to get this film released. And then finally, a faith-based production company bought the rights to it, I believe, from Disney, to then be able to distribute it now.
So Disney, that makes billions, if not trillions, of dollars off of kids every year.
Every year.
Doesn't give a shit about kids.
No.
They didn't have enough bowls.
Oh, they do, but they don't care about kids.
No, they only care about kids that they can profit off of.
They've been tied.
But they don't. So they had. So let's just talk about this a second.
Okay.
Disney, that has Disney World, Disneyland, Disney this, Disney that, Disney, all these kid shows.
Yep.
Kids Bob bullshit, all this shit.
Yep.
Held on to this film for 5 years and refused to release it.
Yep.
And they care about kids.
Absolutely.
I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Well, I mean, if you look at the history of Disney.
Maybe DeSantis going after Disney is the right thing to do. Kick them the hell out of not only the state, but the country, because they seem like they're a bunch of scumbags.
Ghislaine Maxwell was abducting children from Disney right out in the open back in the 80s.
Yeah,
she was connected. There's fucking her father is connected to Mossad, which is the Israeli.
Yeah, Israeli Special Forces.
It's their CIA. Yeah. So in looking at just the creation of Disney itself, Walt Disney himself was connected with the OSS and the CIA for the purpose of creating trauma-based mind control.
Okay.
Disney himself, Walt Disney, is on camera doing things to children that no one should ever do to a children.
No kidding.
The Disney darkness is extremely fucking dark.
Well, they just got called out the other day, I guess, because an older gentleman had a heart attack in Disney.
Yeah?
Yeah, so they took him 15 minutes to get, I guess, medical personnel there. But they did CPR the whole time until he was off the property. Then they said he's dead because nobody dies at Disney.
Well, yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, so
right. Yeah.
They got called out on that. I mean,
but I mean, yeah, legitimately, Walt Disney was a pedophile, and there is films that are in the inner circles of that group out in California where it's been seen in recent times. These things have made it to the light of day. And we're talking the old film shit.
You gotta get the reel out.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and just knowing that, and then knowing that Disney, the CIA bought Disney World. The CIA is the one who funded his land grab down there. So that's why when DeSantis wants to go after Disney, he's not going after Disney. He's going after what the CIA had built back in the day to create their whole mind control apparatus. I mean, this shit is deep and dark, and we're already going pretty long for today, so I think we'll cut it there. But we'll definitely
talk about that real
touch
quick,
on some other topics.
Freedom.
Oh yeah,
beat Disney's own
Indiana Jones.
Woke Indiana Jones.
Woke. It went woke, and what happened? It broke.
It's broke. Yeah,
every fucking time. Now
look at Bud Light. What do they dropped from number 1? They're under 10 now.
Dude,
they're and then
they can't give it away.
No, exactly. And then everybody's complaining. Well, you're putting people out of work. Don't worry, there's lots of jobs out there. You just gotta go get another one.
There's different. That's just it. It's not that alcohol shouldn't be the backbone of America.
No.
If alcohol is the backbone of America, there's something fucking wrong.
The backbone. What are you talking about?
Absolutely, ATF, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, man. It's a state of stupidity.
It's a state of stupidity.
State of stupidity. That's just a state of stupidity.
State of stupidity.
I believe it's a state of stupidity.
They want you to believe it's the state of stupidity.
I told him. I said it's a state of stupidity.